Hey, what's up, guys? Today's guest is Dr. Allison Snowden. Allison takes you through the experiences in her life, from horseback riding, dealing with her sister's cancer, and also dealing with her near-death experience, and how all of this led her to embark on this journey of holistic healing. It's amazing how much trauma the body can endure and still come out the other end a beautiful, compassionate, and loving person. So here's Allison's story. Hope you guys enjoy. A podcast for people seeking transformation into the optimized self.
A companion. It's like, your friend, your book.
I'd rather get rid of my couch than my books.
Oh my God, I know.
I'll just sit on the floor and read my books.
I know, exactly, right?
That's a good idea, but actually my couch now is not my couch, it's my dog's bed. They sleep there, they took over it, so it looks nice now, but
yeah.
Usually they make a mess of it. Cool, let's get started. Allison, thank you for coming. Welcome to the ACE podcast. I'm so excited and honored for you to be here. And I know you have a lot of ideas and techniques to offer to the world.
Yeah.
And this is why we're here.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's jump right in. What is something people don't usually associate you with? Hobbies, passions, or any new goals you have going on in your life right now?
Let's see. Well, there's so many different things. So new goal is to write a book by next year, March, and have that published. So that has been like a huge goal of mine. And anyone who's known me for a little bit, I've always wanted to write a book about my experiences and share it with the world. But just like anything, like if you don't make it a priority, it's goes to the side. So it's been something I've wanted to do for 10 years and I haven't done it because I haven't prioritized it. So that's what I'm up for. Also, I was I did equestrian, so I jumped horses when I was younger. And I just love horseback riding. There's something about being on a horse that is so empowering. So I was a really shy kid. And I don't know, everything scared me. And I was just really wanting to be with my mom and didn't really want to play competitive sports. But there's something about riding and horseback riding, which a lot of people are scared of, that I just felt so empowered and fearless. And so that is like almost like my therapy when fear comes up, is just to get on a horse, because that's where I feel empowered.
I can see where the rush would come from while riding a horse. At any time, this horse could buck you off, 15 feet away, and you break all your limbs.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're in tune
with the
horse, they understand you, you understand it, and you guys have like a wonderful ride.
Yeah, it's the energy, because they're very sensitive to it, and they know. So it's that connection, that collaboration. That sensing, not using your mind, but really using your body and the energy between that and moving forward and doing these crazy things, jumping these jumps.
Yeah. One thing I can relate with that, it might not be the exact same thing, but maybe like a modern way of riding horses is riding dirt bikes.
Yeah.
So I know like this dirt bike's really powerful and go really fast.
Yeah.
And aside from, maybe you can control the horse at some point through the mind, but a dirt bike, you can control it, and it's up to you to figure out how fast you can go, how slow you can go, and you're also jumping jumps. You know? So I can kind of relate to horseback riding in some sort of way. Yeah, it's amazing.
Gets me out of my mind and into my body.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't know you rode horses when you were young. Hopefully you can get back into it.
Yeah, I'm doing it every once in a while. Not as much as I did, but definitely.
Awesome. Well, let's get a backstory of Allison Snowden, maybe a short bio. Like, where are you from?
I was born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. My dad's a doctor, MD. My mom is a nurse. And I was born into a great loving family and medical family and pretty privileged upbringing. And so what started me on healing journey is my sister getting sick with cancer. And that just opened me up to the medical system and healing. And then, and then should I keep on going just on just everything?
Yeah, everything.
So, that opened me up, to just the modern healthcare system. It also opened me up to, just seeing a lot of suffering at a young age. So that happened when I was 6 and 7. And just witnessing my sister going through chemo, getting spinal taps, just going through that process was really, I think it was a lot of trauma, but it just really opened me up made me grow up. So I got to see that, and it's kind of interesting. So we had I had that. My sister had Burkitt's lymphoma. And she was cured within 9 months, but she had just progressive things after with her immune system, and she was always sick. So that continued up until 99. She was in the hospital like several times a year. So that was a huge impact on me. It was really interesting, and I'm like, we might go down this path, but watching her, because go through all of this, because they didn't really know after cancer what was going on with her, and she was sick. And so she would go to a lot of doctors. They didn't really know what was going on because she didn't have cancer, but they couldn't figure out what was going on. So there was sometimes a lot of people didn't believe that she was sick, and including like her teachers and some judgments from other people. And so I got to witness this. And her school wasn't very supportive. They kind of made her leave because they didn't believe that she was sick. And later they found out she had a autoimmune, a C4 complement disorder. So it's almost like having mono all the time with Epstein-Barr virus, and she doesn't make these immune globulins. So she doesn't have a robust system like most of us do. So that's why she was sick, but they couldn't point it. And it was really impactful for me because I got to witness just the lack of compassion and just people judging people. I, from a young age, was like, if someone could do something or be better, they would. So why is that? And it was really sad for me to see, because I think it's hard being sick yourself, but then I think it's doubly hard when you have doctors or people around you that don't believe that you're doing that you are sick and think that you're maybe faking it or drawing it out. And I feel like that is really unfortunate, and we need just more compassion towards people who are struggling. And as a doctor, I always try to see where my patient is, and obviously I believe that what they're experiencing is real. And you would be amazed on how many people come to me and they've been judged by other doctors. Oh, everything's fine, you're crazy. So there's a lot of judgment in that world of healing, actually, and then also just in life. So that really impacted me to not judge people, and just to have that compassion and understanding is really important.
Yeah, as a kid, we look at grown-ups like they know everything.
Yeah.
And for you to experience these people that represented knowledge and maybe some sort of direction, like they had the answers.
Yeah.
To see these people treat your sister horribly because they didn't believe her.
Yeah.
They didn't know her backstory. How can you look at these people for advice?
Yeah.
Or to guide you through your life?
Yeah.
So you kind of seemed like you had to find your own way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely did. And it just is, it's interesting, and you can see how I guess I saw how lack of compassion or passing judgment can really hurt people. Just that, and also the opposite is true. How compassion and understanding and seeing people is so healing, and believing them, and then
So is there I know we discussed before we had this podcast on something that might have happened to you
mm-hmm.
that did give you a different perspective on life that pretty much changed your life.
Yeah.
Can you discuss that with us today, please?
Yes. So, and it kind of hinges off of my sister being sick. So with seeing all of this, being connected with the childhood cancer community, we got to meet a lot of people, friends that were going through that, and as a consequence, I got to go to many young kids' funerals. Went to a lot, so there's a lot of death and suffering around kids, and that just emerged with me this question of why is there suffering. I had already a very intense connection with my higher power, our God. But at that point, when I got around like 14-ish and 15, your brain is changing, and you're kind of like, is this normal? What's going on? And so I just started questioning and praying and being like, God, I want to know, like, why is there suffering? I didn't really ask my parents, or I don't think that's not my recollection, but I just really prayed to God. And I think the straw that kind of made that prayer more intense is my cousin died in a car accident coming home from work. And he was missing for a couple days, and then they found him. His car had gone off. He had fallen asleep at the wheel, and it went up on the ridge of a highway, and then the car fell underneath it in a ravine, and had like 3 life instant, crushed his sternum, broke his neck. So that instant, I just was like, what is going on? And I really kind of went into an existential, like, depression, probably clinical depression, and just was really upset and prayed to God, why, like, what is death like? Was he hurt? Was he was by himself? How awful would that be? And so I just kept on focusing on it. So that's like in the background of my life. But as I was being a normal, like, quote unquote normal 8th grader, 9th grader, and then my sophomore year, my sister is a senior, the one who has had cancer and then was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease, the beginning of 1999, and her infectious disease doctor said, oh, you cannot go to Mexico. We were going to Mexico for her senior spring break. And so my mom decided that, okay, we'll still go because they couldn't get a refund. And my sister went to Florida because her body couldn't, they didn't want her to go because they said that the hospitals are so bad. If she got sick, then it would not be good. So we went to Mexico, to Cancun, and I was on the 3rd night. We were out with my sister's friends, and I'd gone to dinner with my mom, and then we went out and met my sister's friends, and we were drinking and doing, spring break activities. And my friend went home. She got embarrassed and went home and didn't tell me. And I think this was around 11 o'clock at night. But so she went home, and so I couldn't find her, and so I started freaking out, and I wanted to go and find her, and the friends that were at the bar, they're like, oh, just wait, or let me go to the bathroom, and I was just freaking out, so I went by myself. And on the way there, I was walking in Cancun, in the main area, and there was some Mexican guys following me, and it was kind of making me uncomfortable. So I just was like, get away from me and back off. So I think they kind of backed off. And then the last thing I remember is I was crossing the street, and I looked, and I had this moment where I was like, wow, there's no one coming. And I was like, that's strange. So I had that thought, and I remember putting my foot on the pavement, and the next thing I know, I'm, on the ground and just really, out of it, discombobulated. I didn't feel any pain, but I really didn't feel my body that much. I was just out of it, and there's a lot of voices around, and I tried to move, but I was being held down, and I remember just my underwear coming down, and that freaked me out. So I started fighting because I thought I was being attacked and raped, and so I just started fighting, and I couldn't move, and so I just screamed like the most awful scream, and then like my consciousness went black again. And then the next thing I know is that I'm out of my body. So it was like the most, that instance before I was out of my body was probably the most terrifying, awful thing, because I couldn't talk. So I wanted to ask, like, what's going on? I want to move, and I couldn't talk, and all I could do was scream. So it's probably the most scariest point of my life, and I don't think I'll ever be that vulnerable ever again in my life. And so it goes from that, and then I was out of my body. So I was several hundred feet up in the air, and I just saw my body, and there's a like pool of blood, and there was all this drama that was going on. I think at that point there was an ambulance trying to get through, and there was all of that going on. So it was like almost like a movie that I was watching of something else, and I looked, and I was like, oh, so this body right here was just surrounded in blood, and so my spirit or my consciousness was like, oh, that's not me. So meaning this physical body, this is me. So that which is me is that consciousness, that awareness, that invisible force within you that occupies the physical body. And so there's all of this commotion going on, trying to get my leg, and, there's trying to get an ambulance through and all this stuff. And so that was going on, but that's not really my focus. So, when you're like, have a TV on or the radio on the background, and you're not intensely listening to it, but you're very aware of what's going on. So that's kind of how it was like. But I could feel and hear what people were thinking and their thoughts around the accidents. Like the one guy, I really felt how much he was just horrified of what was happening to me, and I could sense his love. So it's really interesting when you're in that emergency situation that you can send love to that person, and they feel it. So I felt that. But my main focus was, when I was out of my body, was I was in this place, and it was not a physical place. It was like a feeling place, and I was wrapped up in this unconditional love, and it was just vibrating through my awareness, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this is like home. And so I was connected to, I guess some people would call that heaven, or some people would call that God consciousness. It was just a place where I was just intensely peaceful, unconditional love. Everything made sense. All of the answers were there. Everything from that, standpoint of life, everything made sense. And I didn't, so I was just this invisible consciousness, and there was other consciousness with me, and just this kind of conscious ball. And I knew that I was super connected to everyone, and I knew I was a separate entity, but it was the lines, the boundaries were so blurred. So it was real connected. And so what was the conversation that was going on when I was out of my body was that, I am not my body. This is who I am. And so everything that you think that matters, job, money, career, all of this, all of these different worries, what you look like, what people think, all of that, that's just an illusion. None of that matters. The point or the goal is just to love yourself and love others, and that's it. And keeping it really simple. And I felt that unconditional love, and I was just like radiating it. And in human life, or in this life, we have time and space, and in that dimension, or wherever I was, there was like there was no time, and so it was like timeless. It was just very strange. So I don't. Some people ask me, how long were you up there? And I was like, I don't know, because there were no police reports, that we didn't get any police reports or medical reports, because I was rushed out of Mexico after I came back. So I don't know how long I was out, knocked out. And on the street, I woke up in the hospital, so we don't really know, and no one was with me. So there's a lot of like unknowns with the actual terms of the accident. So my parents were told that I was hit by a motorcycle, but there's the details are fuzzy. We didn't get a lot of things. I got my shoes back, my bra back. I didn't get my dress back or underwear back. So it's like, and we got my purse back. So there's a lot of unknowns, but when I was out of my body in the near, so it's just like I guess the main message also is the only power is love, and we are all love, and there is no other power other than love. And I also had this knowing of, I've thought about, when coming out about my experience and speaking about it. I've thought about how much, I share, because I don't want to, not offend people or steer people away from the main message that love is the only power, and loving ourselves and loving others is really the main goal of life, or that's what I got from my life. I never want to push anything on anyone else, but sometimes as humans we focus on things that aren't really important, and like the separation. And so when I was up there, I had a knowing that we had I'd been in past lives, so there was this aspect of reincarnation. And so that I experienced. I grew up Catholic, so that was a new experience of just knowing. And some people are like, oh, so you believe in reincarnation. And there is a distinction between believing something, because that's like an act of faith, your belief systems, and then there's like a knowing. And so there's a different, and I think that comes from experiential knowledge of just that knowing.
So like that knowing you're talking about, being that you didn't see any cars and there was no explanation for this horrible incident, what do you believe happened to you?
I knew there's something more to the story. I believed there's something that happened, and that's what always, I think I was somewhat attacked or raped or assaulted, because I have this memory of underwear being pulled off me, and that was my first instinct of that. And so I have to trust that. At the same time, I've studied psychology and the psychology of perception. So here comes like my intellectual self, and how perception can be distorted. So I can see how possibly, if there's other eyewitness accounts or something like that could place what was going on. I mean, maybe I just was hit by a motorcycle, and what I was told was, oh, that was the paramedics or that, and I was fighting them. And that could be a possibility, but there was just it was just this like no information to get added to confirm or not. So I think I'm always questioning. It's a great thing to have, to question and to doubt certain things, but that there's just missing information. So I know something's more to the story, and I never, my parents weren't open to explore that. I think to them, I had looked, because there's no pictures taken of me. I wouldn't allow anyone taking any pictures of me because it's something I did not want to like remember. But I looked, my leg looked like there was road rash on there, and supposedly I had like tire marks on me. So something with a force happened, but we don't know what maybe happened before or after, before that. So, because I was by myself, and then there's no account, so it's just kind of this unknown filling in the space. So, I think that drove me kind of really. It was really hard for me not to know, and but I had to, in order to get on with my healing, I had to accept of what I felt was true, even if it wasn't confirmed by my family or anyone else. I had to move forward. I had to acknowledge that was my experience, and move through that.
I think I'm just more curious on what happened, but I don't think it's that important.
It's not. Yeah.
It's what you learn from it.
Yeah, I learned. Yeah, and I was struggling spiritually at that point in my life, and there's always an exchange of energy, and I really got so much from that, from my accident. I got this awareness, this knowingness, this trust, and this faith about humanity, about the human spirit, about how this is in everyone. It's not just in one of us, this unconditional love, and that we're all connected. And also what I got there too was that everything is recorded in the universe. Like there's nothing that's not, your thoughts, your intentions, your feelings, like everything, there's nothing hidden. And it's not like to be like, oh, bad Chris, like when you die and like that type of thing. No, it's for our own information. And because when we die, we have to look at ourselves, and we want to do this because we're learning and growing, and we're all connected, and we want to see, it's like what happened. And so when you die, you have to get on, you see and feel everything that you've put out into the world. And so you can lie to yourself, or not be honest with yourself, but really the best thing you can do is be honest with yourself about your thoughts, feelings, and intentions, because you're going to experience them anyway, when you die. And I think it's great just to kind of put that whole thing in perspective. Your life, like, we're going to die, physically die. Actually, my experience is that you continue on after your physical death. So there's no birth and death of yourself. It just is. So when you physically die, you go off into the invisible spiritual realm of consciousness. And then my experience is that you can choose to come back or go other places. So your energy, your essence of self doesn't cease to be after you physically die. And it's a loving, and this God, or this higher aspect of ourself, is tremendously loving. And maybe some of the things with the punitive aspects of like some people are like God fearing type things, like that punishment, that judgment. That's like a very like harsh context. It's like when you die and you have your life review, maybe that is harsh, because you'll have to feel, if you put out hatred and stuff, you'll have to feel how you affected other people. But it's not like, oh, you're a bad person, but you just you're in all illusion, melts, and you get to see that, wow, I affect people, and I will feel that because they are me and I am them, and they're a part of me. But in this, human life, you don't feel it.
It's definitely not for eternity.
Yeah.
You'll definitely review your life, and see the mistakes you made. Okay. And then you have to feel what you didn't feel at that time.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel bad, and people represent that maybe as hell,
yeah,
fire, and it's gonna hurt. It might burn.
It burns.
But it's not for eternity.
No, it's not.
You'll get over it, and you'll be able to feel that sense of ecstasy.
Yeah.
And what people may call heaven.
Yeah, and
you know?
yeah, it's like it's definitely you have, and everyone has their own journey within themselves and within their own soul, and yeah, I mean that power is just all unconditionally loving. So there is really like no fear. I mean, I was afraid to die before I had that experience. Not even really the fear of death because I was so spiritual at a young age, but it was really like the pain before you die. Because like my cousin was in this traumatic accident and he was by himself, and I was like, how is that to like exit the world without your family around and that intense physical pain? Trust me, I didn't feel any physical pain before I died, and in my accident there was nothing. I didn't really feel pain until after my surgery because I was kind of just numb. Your own neurotransmitters go into this thing where you just don't feel things. So, do not fear death.
So during this process of recovering from this horrible and what seemed to be at the moment a negative experience, did you encounter something positive?
Oh, with like the accident, I mean everything. I mean that horrible experience of my body, going through that experience, and then actually the consequences of that is I shattered my jaw, my humerus of my upper arm, several of my ribs. My pelvis was broken in 4 different places.
And this is the scar from
yeah,
that?
Yeah. It look really good. And then my left leg was a double compound fracture. So that means the bone goes out of the skin. And so my bone, I have 2 scars on my leg. So it went like that. And it ruptured some of my, blood vessels and arteries. So I lost a lot of blood. But I have scars on my legs where it's like that big where my bone came out. So my lower leg, it came out. And so, yeah, there was a lot of physical trauma. But there was this, the sense was, it was all worth it. Because when that experience of being out of my body and connected with this consciousness and being really attuned to my truth of myself and, what is really real and what is really not real and not important is invaluable. And I had this feeling, so right before I decided to come back or to re-enter my body, this loving vibration. So it was this, my, higher self, or, I don't know if it's the voice of God or whatever name you want to put on it. But it was like my mission is to bring this loving consciousness, this love, and this just high vibrational, just unconditional love, and down to earth and like rooted into earth. And I'm like, how am I going to do that? Well, I need other people to help me with that. But, and that unconditional love, like, the word love is like thrown around a lot. And it's just this unconditional love, like no matter what you do or whatever, there's still this love. Conditional love is, I will love you if X, Y, Z. But unconditional love is loving you at no matter what, always, all the time. And that, and how I try to explain or get you guys to get other people to know what that feels like. Think of someone you've loved so much, whether that's like a child, a mother, or a pet, and like you just think about that. So think about how much love is there, and then in your mind just translate that or multiply that by 1 billion, and that's what it felt like. It was just so profound, and it was just radiating through me. And that is like, there is no human words that can really describe the intensity and the profoundness of that love that's for us. And just, that is like, speaking about it like doesn't know justice.
Well, feeling like this love, this intense feeling of love, times 10 as you explain it.
Times 1 billion.
Where did it lead you? Can you recall one selfless act of kindness you provided for someone?
Oh, like I mean, geez, like, well, there's a lot. I think I try every day to do like just to be kind and to be loving and compassionate. And I mean, there's times, like when I was younger, well, yeah, I was just like sitting with people in the hospital, doing that as a friend, um, and like, just doing random acts of kindness. I know in college I would just like get little like presents and put them on people's doors, but I think there's so many different levels of the expression of love. Sometimes an act of love is forgiving someone, sometimes an act of love is believing in someone. So there's all of these different ways that we can be loving. Just being loving is not being like, oh, I love you, and giving someone a hug. That's an expression of it. But there's so many different ways that love can manifest. It can manifest as support in friends, listening to someone, really seeing someone without judgment. I think that is really a profound practice, just allowing someone to just be who they are in your presence. And also just having that vibration of unconditional love in your field. So just being that love and meeting people just throughout your day, like it's almost like a meditation, just going throughout your day in this state, is a contagious, energy, and how you view things is contagious. And so that is also, a way.
Well, I know for humans, it seems like we try to do things that's going to benefit us.
Yeah.
And you're talking about this unconditional love. That also means showing love and not expecting anything back from it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's without conditions. And yeah, and it's also loving yourself too. You can't just give everything to everyone else and deny yourself. And I think that's a process of understanding and growing up and maturing, which I didn't fully understand at age 15. I'm still. So that was, I went through a phase where I just gave, a lot of, I picked up a homeless guy and gave him $200 and drove him somewhere. And now my adult self is like, what? That probably wasn't the safest thing to do, but I just felt for that person. So what was your question? What was it? I got lost in that.
I think you answered it.
Okay.
So let's move on. That was an amazing and interesting and beautiful story, and I'm sure the audience will really enjoy listening to that.
Yeah.
Because I've had some friends that have passed away, but no one has ever came back like you have.
Yeah.
And it's just and you hear about stuff on the TV all the time, but I can never believe the TV just because they lie so much, the media.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have to really meet the person and connect with them and see that they're genuine in their story. Yeah. And you are definitely genuine. I can feel when you talk about this story, I can feel the pain and I can feel the love that you started to experience after this horrible incident.
Yeah.
I can just feel it. It's amazing. So let's move on. So you mentioned that you were in the process of writing a book. Can you tell us a little about what this book is about?
Well, so this book, I started writing it it was actually 4 years ago. And then I kind of got distracted in grad school. And then, starting a business. And then I did a lot of writing this past summer. And it's just writing my story. Because in my meditation, there was just this voice that was this experience that you experienced is not just for you. It was you're being, it wasn't you're being selfish, but this is just not for you. Get going on broadcasting about what you experienced when you were out of your body, and then also my healing process after. Because how I translated that into my life, and how I, on ground zero, helped rebuild my body, from that traumatic experience. It's we're in this age where people are surviving these traumatic accidents. And our modern medical system is amazing at doing that, but how do you really fully heal the body, the mind, body, and spirit? And what is that process of going through that? And so it'll probably be maybe like a book or a series of books of like the actual spiritual experience, and then also being back at ground zero in a broken body, the physical healing, and then the emotional, and then the spiritual, and just how to accelerate your healing, how to stagnate, where are some of the things that I totally went off and it wasn't helpful for years. So just like that, like just my process. So I think having a guide for something like that, because I had some brain injuries, like I had a TBI and had issues with depression before and that, and, just how do you deal with this pain at the same time knowing of this unconditional love that the universe and people have for you. And then also just, experiencing, some of the hard things of healing, of, not finding answers, judgment from other people, feeling alone, being scared of, how I was going to heal and how I actually healed. So that.
Yeah, what kind of people do you think would be attracted to this book when it is published?
I think people who are spiritual or who want to understand what death and life are about and want to hear a perspective on, how to, I think people who have lost people, I think it would help them, but also people who are like, kind of like me, like there's all of this suffering going on in this world. What is this about? That are yearning for that spiritual knowledge or ithem. And then also people who are trying to heal themselves and aren't getting answers. Because it'll range from the spiritual just to like the, getting to your daily life on just little things that can help you. And then, as in how you think, rituals, we were talking about diet, just all these different things like acupuncture and getting yourself a healing plan. So it's almost like, if I'm giving myself that, back in 99, a book of like, hey, this is maybe a roadmap or what could help you. Because I definitely went down some, ways of thinking, and being that I think really stagnated me. And so if I can help some people, accelerate their healing, bring joy back into their life, relief pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, then all that I've been through, the years of that, will just be like, oh, that was so worth it.
Well, I cannot wait till it's finished.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to buy it. And even though I know you, I still would love to read this book because I know there's going to be a lot more information that you will be able to release through writing. If you could recommend one book, what would it be and why?
Oh man, that's the hardest question
This
ever.
one.
That's the hardest.
This one. You're gonna. This one.
Ooh, oh my gosh.
Maybe a book that you can
like,
recommend that leads to other awesome books.
Yeah.
That relate to it.
Gosh, let me just tune into my intuition. What is my? Okay, so I think. Well, I'll give you okay, so I think understanding spiritual and in the here and now, I think Carolyn Miss.
What was the name of it?
Her author is Carolyn Miss, MISS, and then like Anatomy of the Spirit. I think that was one of the first ones I read about like energy work.
Okay.
And I love in terms of consciousness. And conscious expansion, I love David Hawkins, and he has like a whole series about consciousness. And his book, it was like he has one book, it's just called I. And when I read his description of God, consciousness, I cried because he put into words what I felt, on the other side. And it was very affirming to me. So he has a lot of good books like Power versus Force and just different things. So from a spiritual perspective, that's a great book. I was telling you before that I have Allison's books, and there's just so many, and I feel like they're my companions because you need little things. Sometimes you just need I need my spiritual fuel, and I love the Yoga Sutras. So just reading that is almost like a meditation, but then, just getting back to getting with eating and all of that is all of that is important,
So I can see how
body.
I can see how it would be really hard to choose one. It's like choosing what's your favorite pet.
Yeah,
I have 2 dogs. I guess I could say who is my favorite, but because they can't, I guess, understand me. But we'll go a level up. If you have 2 children, who's your favorite? It's like, oh.
The one I read the most just to get centered within myself is the Yoga Sutras. But also, that's where I think different things have different value, and there's so many books I've read that have added to my knowledge. But for me, I have to come from the spiritual aspect, because if I'm just, and I have to put that flavor in everything I do, because that's my fuel.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Awesome. Well, being that you are an acupuncturist and an herbalist, what are some common myths about acupuncture, self-healing, and holistic medicine you found in the media?
We'll start with acupuncture. One, that it hurts. It doesn't. These needles are very small, and there's nothing on them. A lot of people think that there's something on them. And so it's a different sensation than what you've ever felt, because if you've never had acupuncture, you just don't have a context of it. So sometimes it feels like achy. Sometimes you have a heat-cold sensation. Sometimes the muscle jumps. So the acupuncture is interacting with your nervous system. So your nervous system is how you interpret the world, all your sensations, so acupuncture affects that, because it's a external stimulus going into the skin, into this controlled area of your body. And so your body responds by sending different chemical messengers through the nervous system, endorphins, different chemicals. So there's a chemical cascade that goes on, and your body reacts to the stimulant. So there's nothing on the needle, but your body recognizes it, and then it responds with different chemicals, and then there's a chemical cascade that balances your body. So it affects your brain, it affects the chemicals in your bloodstream, all of that. So it's a global thing that can help with all of that. So it's your body balancing itself out, responding to the stimulus, and there's nothing like it. I was a massage therapist for a while, and that's amazing too. But there's something that's a little bit deeper with acupuncture. So number one myth, that it hurts. No, it's just a different sensation. Now, there maybe are times where it might hurt a little bit, but overall, no one has walked away from my table being in pain. It's actually the opposite. They have pain relief and feel a sense of balance. Second myth is that there's not enough evidence to back up what acupuncture does. Now, that gets me so frustrated, and I'm not a frustrated person, but there's so many studies with validating acupuncture, and it's just on PubMed. You can just Google acupuncture effects of certain things, and it's there. So there's a huge increase of fascination and interest in acupuncture. So it's one of the studies that just came out was they had an ER setting where they had people that were getting acupuncture or intravenous morphine. And it showed, and it was a very well designed study, it showed that acupuncture had more pain relieving effect than morphine, and it worked quicker and had fewer side effects. So it's sometimes like kind of this thing of like, wow, acupuncture can treat so many different things because it works with your nervous system, which is in play with all types of processes in your body. So all your organ functions, how you sense things, how your brain works, the hormones, all of this. So it can, and it acts fast, and there's no side effects, except, I mean, sometimes people might get a bruise, and then there's also the time you have to put into it. But it's safe, and there's research that has shown with pain, helping with surgery before and after, digestive systems. It's just the evidence is there. And of course, we have all of our anecdotal evidence with, patients.
Well, I'm here to say that it works.
Yeah.
And you guys may think that I'm being biased because I know her and this is my podcast and I want to make her and pump her up and make her look like she's right. But it works. Along with other things, I think, just doing acupuncture, and especially just one time and expecting it to work, like that's how our brain works, like the instant gratification these days. Is like, you have to take sessions of it, and you also have to, maybe do some stability and flexibility workouts. If you have, for instance, I have a bursitis going on, and since I've been doing the workouts with maybe like ice baths and this acupuncture, all of that stuff combined has been helping me. I didn't have to take any pharmaceutical drugs. I didn't have to get surgery, thank God. So I'm here to say that it works.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point because, it's not just one thing. It's a lifestyle. Like, healing is a lifestyle. And, I tell my patients, you have to get attuned with, I'm not here to fix you. Like, you put needles in people and their nervous system responds. And that is like one layer of healing. But also I try to inspire people to really tune in how their actions affect their own body and to get excited about it. So if they're feeling bad, okay, here are the ways that you can feel better, and get excited about exploring your own healing potential, through the food that you eat, through the thoughts that you think, through connecting with your spiritual self and connecting with others. That also decreases pain. I was looking up forgiveness too, and how forgiveness is very healing to your body. So, and people that have not processed or who are not forgiving have more pain, more heart disease, so more physical consequences. So really, how you are with the world, your beliefs and the things that you think affect your physiology. Your brain is very connected to your body. And it's so interesting in medicine. It's like, it's so common sense. Like, you're all connected. Like, you have a heart, and then you have a digestive system, and you're in this one, and all these other things, and it's one symphony that works together. But in medicine, with Rene Descartes, and the mind and the body are separate, we've gotten into this modernistic part of healthcare of, you have the cardiologist, you have the GI doctor, then you have the psychologist, and that has, your mind has nothing to do with the food you eat or anything like that, and it's not, you're all one being, and it all affects each other.
So this is coming from the doctor and coming from the patient. But do not believe us.
You have to try it.
Yeah, we're just here to spark the idea. You got to go out there into the world and experience things for yourself. Just use the external knowledge as just a spark. Yeah,
and I'm in my practice. I mean, I do, because I was in, my doctors told me and my parents that they've never seen crushed bones on a living person so bad. My arm was really crushed. They said that I was, a miracle that I had survived that force, and that also that I had a mild TBI, but that I was actually like, pretty well put together after 2 years of surgeries. I was told that I was always going to be in pain, that I should forget about running, that just to accept that pain was my future. Luckily, I have a rebellious streak, and I didn't believe that. And you can heal pain, and you can heal your life. It might take more time than your ego wants you. We want to be healed right now, but it's a process, and enjoying that process of discovering. And the other thing that I also incorporated in is yoga and meditation. Yoga is a part of my daily practice, and that in itself is just increases your self-awareness. So it's all about becoming more aware of what's going on within yourself, your feelings, your sensations, and exploring into it. A lot of times when we have pain, we just ignore it, or we just are like, no, I don't want to deal with that. And with my patients, especially like chronic pain patients, and it's just like, what's really going on there? And when you're in pain, you probably have this experience. There's just this part of you that just doesn't want to feel it. That's just normal. But really teaching people to like breathe into it and being like, okay, what do I really feel? Like, what is beyond the label of pain, or the label of sad or depressed or whatever? What are you really feeling? And those sensations. And I think yoga and meditation really gets you attuned to your inner world. It really, invites you in, and not to get scared by that.
Awesome. If you could provide one tip to someone seeking holistic healing, what would it be? What would be the first step? Something not too extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Like in some eyes, people may think like acupuncture could be extreme just from the
Mm-hmm.
things they've heard about it.
Mm-hmm.
What's something easier that they don't have to commit so much that can lead them to,
I think, just looking at, if acupuncture is like, a little scary, then try massage or try a yoga class, or just doing like, guided meditation, anything that turns you inward to feel what's going on. It's a lot of our life is in marketing is like turn outward, buy this, get this job, whatever. No, turn inward and really feel what's going on. Also I think, diet, just be more loving to yourself. So asking yourself in your life, like, okay, is this loving to myself and others? And sometimes they're even going deeper with that. Sometimes with trauma and maybe bad experiences or whatever, we don't feel worthy of love. And just saying that you are, and going from that. So there's so many different ways you can, go. Acupuncture, massage, meditation course, or even just on YouTube, just finding like a meditation that resonates with you, or getting an app called there's like Headspace, there's Calm. So just maybe setting 10 minutes every day. So the consistency is the important thing, of just sitting with yourself and just listening and breathing.
I think the meditation is like probably going to be the easiest
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes. Say you do have some chronic disease or this pain, lingering pain, you may not be able to exercise or run. You're just afraid of needles, so acupuncture is out of the question. But meditation you can do anywhere. And people get this idea that you have to have this vision and meditate for hours. They see monks that is meditating like in parks. Like, you don't have, it's not necessarily that. There's all sorts of meditations. Simply going to the beach and staring at the water and focusing on the water, that's meditation. Anything you could do that drowns everything else out is a meditation.
Your life, yeah.
You can meditate anywhere, and you don't need money. You don't need health insurance to go to a doctor. You just need yourself.
Yeah, that's the message, is that there's so much wisdom within yourself and in your body. We just have to learn how to listen and get attuned. And so all these practices help tune us into what's going on. Also, feeling, there's, also like energy work, and that sometimes is a little bit depending on your background. So Reiki or Tai Chi or Qigong, just to start to experience, these different alternative practices that have been going on with Tai Chi and Qigong for a long time. Experiencing your energy, or that aspect of you that's not matter. And one way is that I teach people who have no concept of like energy or meditation, is just I'll instruct them to they can close their eyes and put their awareness in their hands, and just rub them real fast, and then just play with, this is, your energy, and just go close and then far away. And it's kind of like a magnet. So if you've ever had magnets to each other and like pulled them away and they bounce, like, then when you were little and like did that with magnets, and it just doesn't, and so you just kind of feel that. So just doing this exercise with patients, and you'll feel tingling on your hands, and just putting your awareness on like, what am I feeling, and just going through this and just feeling your energy. And some people are like, well, what is this useful? Well, this is useful because you're practicing that muscle of not being in your head and experiencing sensations. So this other wisdom that's not in our human brain. And that is connecting to that part of you that is, that consciousness, that awareness that is the true you. So going back to my near-death experiences, is like, my consciousness is in this body. I am not this body. I'm not this mind, but I'm inhabiting it right now. So we must treat it well. But I think where a lot of people get stuck is in the human brain, where we're pinned to survival. So fear will come up, anxiety, all of these different ideas. But if we can get back to the body, get out of that, and get in touch with our energy and our body, and that sense of love and compassion that comes from the heart, not from the brain, I think that's where your healing potential can go into miracles, and there's maybe a part of some people that are like, oh, is this real? Oh, this is that kind of part of the brain that does that. And that's fine, because that's the human brain. Your human brain will never understand your consciousness and that which you are. It's like trying to ask, like an animal to it just will never happen. Or trying to explain to a little child, like, quantum physics, like, it's not going to happen. So you just give up that. Like, you'll always maybe have that brain that's questioning things, but it's really tuning into your innate wisdom that exists outside of the human brain. And that's in the heart and in the body. And that's what we need to strengthen within ourselves to tap into that power. You can't think your way there. You have to feel and connect to your spirit, and the brain will never get it. So, give up that argument of arguing with the brain. I mean, even when, I don't know, when I was in grad school, and I was doing Reiki sessions on people, and I feel it, and I'm balancing her energy, and I get this at the end of the treatment. I energetically asked, what is this? Is there anything else I need to know? This is coming from a place of service, for this person to know. And I got shown this like picture of this patient, playing the piano. And she was just like in her element, just like glowing, and just like, just in her element, and she was happy. And I was like, okay. And so I was telling the patient, oh, I, balanced her energy field. So like there's a little bit stagnation here. And then my intuition was like, tell her about the piano. And I'm like, oh my God, she might think I'm weird. And, like that's the human ego. It's always like, well, what will people think? How can I control that or whatever? And I still have those thoughts today before I will like say something I intuitively felt. And I've just learned to like not listen to them. I'm like, whatever, that's the brain. But so I said to her, I'm like, so I got this picture of you when you're in your element of playing the piano. And I think you need to do that more. And I was just like that. And this woman, this client just started bawling. And she's like, oh my God, I love the piano. And I had, I'm a single mom and, I just love it. I was like, I know, I saw you're just like in your element. And I'm like, I think you need to make it a priority to do that more because that just lights up your spirit. So, it was a piano for her. And she was like, well, with money and, kid, I was like, I don't care. I was like, don't come back to me. I'm like, go play the piano. And so the ego, and there's a part of in the brain is always like, oh, well, your intuition is always, we're all intuitive. We're always getting information. It's just learning how to comprehend that. And, my intuition is different than other people. Some people see, feel things, but we always have to be courageous in speaking that. Now, what if I was like afraid of, maybe I wanted her to come back, I wouldn't have told her that. If I was in fear mode and operating out of survival mode because I need money or I need patience, but that's where your values and your courage always comes in, and to like act from that and to share that. And so you really have to be in tune with your fears in order to really get, clear readings and intuition, and also to, move forward and to act from those. So what if I, was really concerned if, this woman thought I was freaking crazy? I would have not said anything. Mm-hmm. So you have to recognize like that maybe you'll have thoughts about, oh, this won't work, or maybe this person is like woo woo or out there, but you just have to trust that, maybe I should just try it and just bypass that and be willing to, try new things, experience new things, be willing to love yourself.
So going back to the question, so the best answer for this question for anyone seeking holistic healing, the first step, probably the best one would be meditation.
I think meditation, right. And just putting your hand on your heart and taking meditation and deep breathing.
Okay, and we are not telling you to go home and throw away your prescription drugs and saying not to see your primary physician, but maybe in conjunction with that you can try meditation, yeah. And acupuncture and all those sorts of things. So don't get it twisted.
Yeah. Go check with get a holistic doctor. Yeah, get someone who's open to these things and get their guidance, because that's why we went to school and have had all this stuff to help people through that.
Awesome. Well, we are winding down to the intel of this podcast. I like to end the podcast with 3 important questions, mm-hmm. that I feel that are really important. And in your case, this could be really interesting. What is your definition of a miracle?
My definition of a miracle is reality. It is a miracle that I'm here speaking about this, that I'm in this body and I am having this conversation. That's a miracle. And in getting more specific, a miracle is something that does not make sense, because so in terms of healing, it is just like something happening that's beyond rational thought. So miracle is the language of the spirit, and something that's not a miracle is something that usually happens, and that's confined by the rational brain. So, this happens, this happens, this happens. Anything that happens outside of what is supposed to happen is considered, a miracle. But the thing is that it's a miracle that I'm alive. It's a miracle that my brain is okay, and it's a miracle that I have no pain, and that I healed that pain. But it's not, if you're in the language and in the presence of spiritual, of that love, anything's possible. And so it's a miracle to someone who is just limited by their rational brain. But if you're in the language, if you're in the beingness of spirituality, of human potential, if you're living in that space, then miracles are happening all the time, So you can really see your life as a miracle, and really wow, it's not just me, but so many people that you're in this place, in this time, and you've met these people. You can view your whole life as a miracle if you're living from that spiritual state, and in that energy, more miracles and coincidence and things will happen. So it's really living outside that human brain and being in that heart and that spiritual world. And going back to what I was saying before, that the human brain, the rational brain, will never understand that of which is the spiritual, that consciousness that lives outside of the human brain. So the human brain will die and whatever, but you will live on. And that is that consciousness, that spiritual aspect of you, that energetic aspect of you. So if you're living in that realm, just more miracles happen because you're not living in the confines of that rational brain. So I invite you to just be open to the possibility of miracles happening in your life, and for your life shifting and changing, and just opening up your heart to that.
That's a beautiful and insightful definition of a miracle. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So the second question will be, what does success mean to you?
Success is, to me, is facing your fears and moving through them. And also, there's something within inside of us that only we know, that we are not supposed to do that, because that sounds ridiculous, that we are born to do, or feel like this is what I'm here for. And everyone is so important, everyone, the janitors, everyone, every being is here for a purpose and plays a vital role, in the success of humanity, and is so powerful. That's the other thing I want to put, that the individual is so powerful. We have such an opportunity to positively affect each other. So I think that of success is really, being inspirational to someone or helping someone out. I mean, it's great to have money and nice things, and I do like them, but success is at me is did I love myself, and did I love others? And there's so many different expressions of that, and so that's what it is. And also, it's just kind of it's not something you get to, it's something that you are right now,
That you have just realized through time.
Yeah, that there's not a destination, it's just the beingness of the now and the here and now. It's not when you get a job or get all these different things, that's great, but just really, I think, loving yourself and loving others in this moment right now. Not, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll love myself when I am 10 pounds lighter, or when I have a degree, or these conditions. That's conditions. So just loving yourself as you are, imperfect, that your mind says, or what, perfectly imperfect, and that's success. Very basic. And then all the other stuff is maybe just cherries on top or whatever.
You hear that, people? You are already successful.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that you're not and you'll never be. You just have to recognize it.
Yeah, and that you have so much power to heal, to shift, and to transform yourself and others. And it's really transformation, I think, is just, pulling back all of the lies that we've told ourselves or we've been conditioned to think of how amazing you really are. And just to really like feel that of what a precious human being you are. When I'm with my patients, I'll energetically like say that because, each person and each being has so much in them and has so much that they can do with their life, and just really recognizing how precious each human is just needed. We need to recognize how much potential and how important we are and how much we affect each other.
Awesome. So the last and final question, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth. I think wealth is abundance, and I like the term of like inner abundance. And wealth, I think, is like a state of mind, and it's a state of gratitude. And I think in our culture we think of if you say wealth, then it's like, oh, big house, like ability to buy things. And mine is just not that. Mine is just this wealth of feeling grateful and just of this inner wealth, and inner abundance and that's like a state of mind of just being grateful and loving and appreciative of your life. And for me it's just more of like, just growing my inner wealth, because there's always in our life, it's like the inner and outer, so the invisible and the visible. And to me, like wealth is being really attuned to who you are and being on your own path. And then maybe you'll have some physical wealth, but I think wealth, really that inner abundance and that freedom, it's like a feeling. Because I've met people that are very wealthy, but maybe their inner wealth is lacking. So I think it's great to accumulate or to be wealthy on the inside as well as the outside. That inner abundance and that inner world is so important, because that's what, when you transition from this life, that's what you have, is that knowingness. So,
well, thank you so much for explaining your experiences and sharing your ideas. You've changed my life for sure, and I know you can probably change other people's just by talking, and sharing your experiences. So I'm glad that we were able to make this happen.
Yeah,
and I'm so excited for the future of our relationship.
Yeah.
Where can people find you and connect with you?
So I have two websites, www.allisonsnowden.com, so that's ALLISON, and then Snowden, SNOWDEN. And that's more my personal page, retreats, doing consults like through Skype. So that's that. And then I have Snowden Integrative Acupuncture, so that's more my physical practice here in San Diego. But like, reach out through that, and I would love to connect. Also, I'm on Instagram, Dr. Allison Snowden, and then Facebook, Allison Snowden. So I do a lot with Instagram, and I try to post that and do some lives, and Facebook, I'll do some lives. But it's going to be an exciting year coming up of, in the next year with a book, and then online courses and more groups like that, because really my purpose is to, have people find health and wealth. I mean, your health is your wealth too, to put a short with that. Spiritual, emotional health is your wealth. And to get this like contagious momentum with individuals and groups of your potential for healing. Because once you light someone else up, then that has an effect on someone else. Like you can just have this like elevate all of ourselves. And so I'm really excited about this because I really feel like we're at a pivotal time of spiritual awakening, but then at the same time, like there's a lot of stuff going on in our planet, and to wake up and get excited to spread this loving energy in so many different forms.
Wake up, people.
Wake up to your love.
Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you.
Wow, that was a beautiful story, and I loved the podcast with Allison. One thing I learned from Allison is that we have to stop blaming the external things and problems and dig internal, deep down, and find the root cause of the suffering, and to realize that we have the love in us. We just have to recognize it. So you guys, the next person you see today, I want you to give a big hug and just a smile. Even if it's a random person, I challenge you to do this. You guys have a beautiful day. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.